We are back with On the Road of Recovery with Tony from Bowling Green. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks again so much for coming out and joining us. Can you start off by describing your childhood?
So for me, I had a great childhood. I really couldn't have asked for much more from my parents. Stable family. I grew up playing sports, and my parents always fostered my interests. My mom's a teacher, so school and education's always been important. So I think I did well in school. I'm the oldest of three. My brother and sister, we have a great relationship, even though we're all spread apart. And for me though, I had the dad that was always coaching my youth sports, and my parents really lived through us as their kids, and something that I'm so thankful for, having that stability and support throughout my life. I think would describe my childhood.
Fantastic. Sounds beautiful. Can you describe when you first started experimenting with drugs and or alcohol?
So it wasn't until late. I mean, I think I might have dipped into my parents' cabinet when I was in junior high and had a couple sips. But as far as actually, using with the intent, that was probably end of high school. And really, my friends were starting to experiment, and I was pretty reluctant to. But one day, that kind of, I guess, that wall broke down, and I decided to experiment. And for me, I think looking back, I have an addictive personality, and I have that genetic predisposition. So when I started, it was pretty quickly apparent that I didn't use like maybe the normal person.
Gotcha.
And it, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how it progressed?
I went to college and went to Ohio State, and from there, it just kind of got worse, and it got worse pretty quickly. And then that first summer after my freshman year is when I finally realized, like myself, that I have a problem. But I was afraid to tell people, so I still kind of hid it until things got to the point where my money was gone, what's going on, so I kind of had to break down and tell my parents then. And so they got me into treatment, and then that was kind of how things escalated, I guess.
Okay. And after treatment, were you able to maintain sobriety?
No.
Okay.
I think obviously relapse is common, and it's still difficult to accept that relapse is a part of this. But at the same time, I knew I had a problem. I wanted to change, but I had so much to learn, and there's so much that I have learned that I've been in treatment 3 times, and could have been more, but it definitely took successful or unsuccessful tries at this to get to the point I'm at today.
Well, and learning things along the way is important. And this is a chronic disease, so it's not uncommon to have recurrence of symptoms, and being able to have the ability to get help again is vital. Can you talk about the last time, so 2017, what went on that you got help for hopefully what may be the last time?
So really it was kind of, when I first went to treatment, it would actually have been my second time. I went twice in pretty short succession, but after the second time, I kind of changed gears and thought maybe I could just get away with other things because that wasn't my drug of choice, I guess, quote unquote. And I maintained that for a few years, from about 2013 to 2017, where I was still looking back like I needed substances to function or to feel comfortable in my own skin. And things escalated slower, but they escalated, and it got to the point where I got into a pretty bad accident. And now I was looking at real consequences as far as, I should have probably died in the accident. Now I have an OVI, I have professional aspirations. Where am I going with my life? And I think that combination of things, and then just that unwavering support of my now wife, and at the time girlfriend, and my family, and them always, not supporting and not being okay with me having these things happen, but at the same time providing me that opportunity to have the supports in place and the structure I needed, really made all the difference in the world for me. And that's something that I'm so grateful for, because I know not everyone has.
So can you talk about some of the things that you've learned and that have supported your sobriety to help you flourish in recovery?
Sure. Okay. So I've tried a lot of things throughout the years, and I found what works best for me is staying connected to people. I love the saying that the opposite of addiction is connection. And I feel like for me, that's staying connected to the people that love me and really have my best interest in mind. I think that's staying connected with things I'm interested in, whether that's, I love sports, like following sports and, you know, doing stuff on the side, whether it's house projects, things that I'm passionate about. I think another big thing for me is taking care of my physical health. So I love, exercising, running, playing basketball once a week. I have all these little things in place that I look forward to. And I think having things to look forward to makes a big difference. And above all, too, goals. Like I've found that setting goals for myself and achieving them feels so good that like I don't want to put all of these things in jeopardy. So for me, it's a balance of all of that. That's worked for me.
Can you talk about how relationships with your family members have improved since finding your way in long-term recovery?
I think it's always a work in progress. I think there's been a lot of ups and downs, and I know there's still trust that needs to be rebuilt, and that's something that I'm okay with and I understand because unfortunately, you can become deceptive when you're in a bad state, and that can be tough for people to overcome. But I know, all in all, we've worked through this together. It's impacted me just as much as it's impacted them. And, I think at the end of the day, they know that I don't want to hurt them and how important they are to me. And I know that they support me and love me and want what's best for me. And I think that common understanding allows us to move forward and work through the troubles, even when they arise today.
And can you talk about some goals that you've set for yourself that you've been able to attain?
Well, so like a current goal is a half marathon. I haven't attained. Well, I've run them in the past, but I've been running, and like I really enjoy that, and I've hit some pretty good times recently with some running goals that I've had. So that's like a physical example, I guess. And me and my wife did this thing called 75 Hard in the winter. And it was essentially 75 days, and you had to do these 5 tasks every day. And if you didn't, you had to start over.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of start as, like, let's just do it. Well, we had to stick to a diet. It didn't matter what it was, but stick to a diet. And it couldn't be, like, really loosey-goosey. It was exercise twice a day, once inside, once outside. Read 10 pages of personal development or, like, nonfiction every day. It was drink a gallon of water every day, and it was take a progress picture every day. And we did that for 75 days, and she did it with me. And, looking back, honestly, we grew a lot together and individually, and that was a pretty big accomplishment when I look back on it.
Yeah.
Graduating college was big for me. I had to take breaks when things were tough for me, but I stuck with it. And I think now really my new job at the health department where I can work directly with this. Although that maybe wasn't a set goal I had, it gives me a sense of feeling like I am where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like for a long time, I've just lacked that. I just haven't felt like I knew where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do, or like I was even headed in the right direction. So I think it all kind of plays together. And if you take care of certain things in your life and you push yourself, but you stick with it and are okay with setback, good things come in time. And that's been awesome to learn.
Absolutely. And learning, that instant gratification is not typically, that doesn't last. And so being able to really work for things, anything that you work for really seems to be that much more wonderful. So can you talk about the gifts that you've been able to enjoy since being in recovery?
Well, I've been able to get married. I have been able to get my degree. I've been able to get a job where I have financial stability and a purpose. I feel like I'm able to. There's just so many. It's tough to put into words because honestly, just being here and being able to be alive is the number one gift. Because I look back and I took for granted how much I was flirting with dying, and that alone is a gift to be here and to have the opportunity to maybe make a small difference in someone else's life. I know my circumstances may not apply to the next person, but I do fully believe that if you're alive, there's always hope, and you can always make a change. I felt hopeless many points where, looking back, it was probably silly, but I think it's easy to get consumed in that feeling of hopelessness. And really, as long as you're alive and you just have that, even a small desire to make a change, I think amazing things can happen in anyone's life, no matter what that looks like. And for me, that's been the number one gift, is just maybe not knowing what's coming, but knowing that I have that excitement of like, I don't know what the future holds, and that's a good thing. So I would say that.
Beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about when you have a problem that arises, how you handle it today?
Sure. I mean, I still have to learn, and I'm learning to cope with my anxiety and self-worth every day. I mean, that's something I still see a counselor, and I still see them pretty regularly, and I still am actively working to, focus on those things. But I've also found a lot of successful strategies, whether that is exercise or eating right, or, having small little rewards that, allow me to push through the tough times. I think those are good examples of that.
Yeah, for sure. Could you share some words of wisdom or words of hope that really spoke to you, that, when you were having a tough day, that really provided inspiration?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I don't even know if there's necessarily certain words that I could say or something that someone told me that sticks with me, but I think it was the feeling that it was about more than just me, and that like there are people, whether I wanted to believe it or not, that still cared about me and still wanted what was best for me and still saw the best in me even when I didn't see the best in myself. And I think if I could impart any wisdom, it would just be that, like, no matter how down and out you feel, and no matter where you're at, that doesn't mean that you can't just stick with it for another day. And there's always change around the corner, even if you think it's not possible. So I feel like, for me, sometimes other people got me through, and just thinking about them allowed me to think about myself, because I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I know, like, there's this, I've done an exercise with my counselor where I have to think about myself, but through the lens of how, like, maybe my neighbor views me or how this person views me. And when I talk about myself from someone else's viewpoint, I'm always way nicer to myself. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if we can just learn to be nicer to ourselves and, like, have that approach, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, that's spectacular. Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share with our audience?
No, other than I'm just so thankful for you guys interviewing me, and this is something that I'm still coming to grips with, being uncomfortable sharing with others, and that's okay. And I think the stigma associated with addiction and people who struggle with substance abuse or have struggled is real, and I think that can be difficult, but I truly believe that it doesn't make someone a bad person, and whatever I can do, or we can do in general, to reduce that stigma is going to make a big difference, because people deserve to get the help they need and deserve the support and just human kindness on a basic level. So
well, thank you so much for coming out today. We really appreciate it. Your story is definitely going to help a variety of people out there that are alone and really are feeling that there's no hope. You are absolute proof that there's way out of addiction into the freedom of recovery.
Thank you so much.